Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot, Rohit, for giving us this opportunity. We are pretty excited about this session because we are reigniting the Adelaide chapter for the community. So thanks for all of you to join this session and help us contribute. I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Saloni Juneja. I work as a senior RPA business analyst with Pernix. So my role focuses on process discovery, opportunity assessment, doing cost benefit analysis, ROIs. I also do requirement gatherings, and then I've also done COE setup for some of the customers. And I have almost 14 years of experience. And before I joined Pernix, I was working for UiPath and UI and TCS. So that's about me. And as Rohit mentioned, myself and my colleague Subhajit will be driving this session. So the topic for today is UiPath Overview, which is AI at work. Let me know if all of you can see the presentation. So we've already introduced ourselves, myself, Saloni, and Subhajit. In the next 60 minutes, we would like to focus on understanding the challenges that industry is facing today, and also trying to understand how automation is helping overcome those challenges. After that, we'll try to identify certain target areas where we have seen that automation is most beneficial. Of course, this is not the limited list. There are a lot of different areas. Then we'll talk about the UiPath operating model, focusing specifically on the business automation platform and the various products that are part of that particular platform. So that would be 60 minutes. And of course, as Rohit said, I don't want to sound like a talking robot. So please feel free to unmute yourself, ask your queries, and also share your experience within your processes or industry for different topics that we'll be talking about. So let me start, and we'll talk about a very simple definition of what automation is, because when we are talking about RPA, UiPath, we should understand what automation is. So what automation refers to is basically when you use any technology. It can be RPA, it can be chatbots, it can be also API integrations that you use to perform tasks or processes that actually is done by a human being while they are working. So that's what automation is, any software that you try to use. Now, talking about UiPath and AI. So back in 2005, when UiPath started, of course, it started more of a product leader in RPA space. But due to evolution in the AI, UiPath also modified its products and also came up with new products that are more aligned to the AI evolution. So some of the products that we have seen is intelligent document processing, cognitive RPA rather than just RPA, process mining, task mining, and of course, we'll talk about all these during our discussion. So these are some of the AI tools that UiPath has come up with. And in fact, Everest has also awarded them with one of the market leaders in that space. So that's about UiPath and AI and how it has evolved over a period of time. So to start with our next thing, we'll look at the different challenges that industries are focusing and why there is a pressing need to move to automation at this point of time. So the very first thing is labor shortage. So what we have seen is that there is lack of skills sometimes where the employees are not trained to do a certain task. So there can be a labor shortage within the organization. So automation helps in filling that gap or bridging that gap by doing those tasks where you don't have resources, or it is getting difficult for some of the staff members to manage. So that's where automation helps. With the changes that's happening around the globe, there is a pressing need that you have to reduce your costs. So we all know that companies are talking about cost savings and time savings. So how automation helps is that you need not rely on a human being, like because there is increase of labor costs as well. So is there a question? So it can really help in cutting down. Can everyone mute themselves, please? Yeah, so that helps you cut down your operational expenses, like how you're doing your work. You can reduce that if you are actually relying on automation. And when we are working, we all know that how important it is that you should feel engaged, you should feel happy about what you're working on. So team experience becomes very important. So sometimes when you're working on mundane tasks like data entry jobs, you start feeling bored. So that's where you can actually give away this work to an automation like a bot or something, and then you can free up yourself to do tasks that are more strategic or involves more of your thinking, so that you really are happy while you're working. And we all know that if you're working with customers, there are instances that you can be penalized if there are a lot of errors in your transactions or you are not meeting quality standards. So hence, when you actually use automation, then you can ensure that the bot has learned in a specific manner, and it actually is more accurate, reduces your errors, and you can actually meet the demands of your customer in much better manner. Moving to the next one, that the scalability of your operations, because there is a huge demand in the industry and in the market. You want to also meet that demand, but if your volumes are higher, and of course, when I was talking about labor shortages, if you don't have enough people to take care of that work, automation can help you, because automations are usually 24/7. You need not rely on a specific shift. It can keep on working when your volumes are going high. So it definitely helps you scale your business. Talking about the regulatory compliance, we all know that certain countries or certain industries pose norms while you are operating in a specific market. Just to give you an example, GDPR or some compliances that are insurance related, you have to cater to those norms. So how automation can help is that it can help you record your data. So while you're working, there are a lot of logs or information that is tracked by automation that can be something which you can post for your audit, etc. Hence, you can ensure compliance is being maintained. We have already spoken about customer expectations. So we all know that customer is kind of a king. So we have to ensure that we really meet their expectations. And so how automation helps is that if you're pretty consistent with the way you're working, if you are not really erroneous in the way you are dealing your transactions, you're definitely keeping your customer expectations pretty high and keeping them satisfied. Uh, the way we are working, we have seen there is a lot of data. So, there is data in and out, and managing that data really becomes very difficult. Hence, if you have to analyze that data and then pick up something which is more insightful to make decision making, that's where automation really helps. So yeah, that's where I wanted to talk about the last thing, which is the challenge which currently industries face is increase in competition. So there are a lot of companies that are kind of operating in the similar environment or doing the same kind of work. Hence, how do we really keep ourselves better than others is using automation by increasing the amount of volumes that we are catering, being less erroneous, also complying to the regulatory norms, etc. So that's how we are trying to keep an edge as part of our competitive people. I'll move to the next one. Not too sure if there is a question. Subhajit, just let me know if there is a question and I can help answer that. Now we'll talk about how software robots are really helping some of the tasks that robots can take care of. And I'd like to talk about this using an example, a use case, which is invoice processing. So typically what happens is if you are an organization who's dealing with products or services, you might have vendors that are sending you invoices, and these invoices can sometimes lead to thousands or even millions of data that is coming to your organization. So what happens is typically in this use case, you get those invoices, you have to extract the data, and then maybe post to an application, which is something which the organization is already working on. So what robots can really do is log into any such application. So it can also actually capture the captcha, which is sometimes maybe in the form of a words or some mathematics that it can do. So the bots are capable of doing that. Bots can also connect to system APIs. So I was talking about some ERPs. So if you have to post your data on certain ERPs, those ERPs can expose their APIs to these robots, and then the robots can connect to those APIs to make the operations pretty smooth. So rather than going onto the user interface or really the screens, the bot can connect to those APIs and make the implementation very smooth. So when you're looking at invoices, there might be certain documents that you get on maybe some emails. So you might have to move them to your local shared drive or to some kind of SharePoint, etc. So bots can help you move all those files from one folder to another. So you need not do it manually. Uh, Talking about again invoices, typically we have seen these invoices are very PDF or unstructured data. So you might have to extract that content so that you can convert them into meaningful text or Excel. So bots can really extract that content for you and then convert it as and when you need for processing. And of course, all that involves a lot of data. So you might need to read or write these into databases. So bots can help. I'm sorry, bot can help you do that. And I've already spoken about opening email and attachments. So if these invoices are coming on email, the bot can, with the help of what is the subject line, who is the recipient, and even with the kind of attachment that has come, it can understand that it's an invoice and try to open that email and, as I said, move it to the specified location. This is another feature which bots are capable of, which is scraping data from the web. So in terms of invoices, there can be certain instances where you might have to open some contracts or you might have to go to web to get data, which is in addition to your invoice. So the bots are capable of doing that. And just an example, you can scrape data from web in any form and also perform calculations. So bots are capable to perform simple as well as complex calculation. So going back to the example of invoice processing, based on history, if you want to understand how much I've paid to a customer or how much is a pending amount to be paid. So bots can help you do all those calculations and then give you the right amount which is due, or probably something which looks like more amount which the customer has demanded. So all those calculations can be performed. And last two, which is more AI related and pretty interlinked, is robots can leverage AI to interpret data and take decisions. So what does that mean is, if in your invoice, you can set certain rules, like, for example, my amount is more than this amount, or my customer is a specific customer, then the bot can actually take a decision to approve those invoices or maybe park it for somebody to manually intervene and take it to next level. So bots are capable to do that. And this is just a list. And of course, bots can do much more than this. So we were talking about some of the potential target areas, and this is something which I have also seen in my career, that usually there are certain services or departments within the industry where you can have a lot of target areas, but of course it's not limited. So it can keep on varying based on the industry that you're working or processes that you're working. You can find a lot of target areas where you can look for automation opportunities. So one of the areas is HR services. So what we have seen is that typically this particular HR services, I can hear some background noise. Can others go on mute, please? Yeah, thank you. So we have seen that HR services is pretty data-oriented or administrative kind of a service. So hence, there are plethora of opportunities within this space. I would like to just give you an example of some of the automations I have seen. So when we are talking about resume shortlisting, so robots can be trained to look at certain keywords based on your job description. So if a candidate shares a resume, you can actually read the skills of that particular candidate and try to match with your current role, and then shortlist some number of profiles. So that's where bots can really help, so that a user or an HR resource need not go through those resumes. It can be completely automated. So HR, and of course there are other areas like payroll, time and attendance, which are very data oriented kind of roles, which can be automated pretty smoothly. Another area I have already picked up an example of invoice processing, which is finance and accounting. Very data driven, and a lot of information gets into this particular service. So procure to pay, order to cash, record to report are some of the examples where you can actually look for a lot of opportunities. I already gave an example of invoice processing, but just to elaborate it further. So for example, you are getting those invoices and then you have to enter this data into SAP, Oracle, or any such solutions. Then the bot can extract that data using an OCR. OCR is optical character recognition. So it can read the data and then post all that data for further processing. Maybe, accounts payable team needs to pay that money to the vendor. So hence it needs all those data points from the invoices. So bot can read that data, enter into an ERP, and then you can further process it. One more service, which is supply chain, which involves a lot of steps and usually a lot of stakeholders. So hence, really, I would say it is an area where you should look for automations. Just to give you an example, if you can analyze some of your sales data, or you can look at your history in terms of what products customers are uh, really buying, which bots can do for you. You can manage your inventory better. Of course, you can keep those stocks really up to date so that you don't have wastage in your inventory management. So bots can be really great at doing this data analysis, and it's an example of trying to take a decision for your inventory. And lastly, IT services, which is usually a back-end process for organizations. Again, this is one of the another areas where you can look for opportunities. Another example is creating account or a user account when a new employee joins. So what happens is when you are onboarded onto an organization, you have to get access to a lot of different applications. It can be Outlook or maybe applications that are specific to your role. So what the bot can do is it can actually integrate with the HR portal, understand that an employee has joined, and rather than somebody giving you access to different applications, bot can actually create your account. And in fact, if bot can understand what role you're playing in the organization, it can give you that particular permission to access the data accordingly, so that you're not breaching some confidential information or any other aspects which are in that particular application. Other than that, bots are also capable of doing a lot of password reset, unlock, processing of emails, which I said. So these are some of the opportunities that really can be looked forward. And of course, this is just not a limited list. There is no end to automation in the current era we are looking at. So yeah, it's definitely lot of different opportunities that we can see. So I just wanted to set context before we actually move to the UiPath platform. And now we'll talk about all the different things that we have seen so far, how UiPath is helping with the products and platform it has to really keep up with the different ways the companies really want to work. So typically, the AI at work with UiPath has three layers. So to start with, first one is a discover layer, and there are different products there, and I'll talk about it. Then the second one is an automate layer, and the last one is operate layer. I'll drill down to them one by one, and I'll just give a high-level overview because I'll pass on to Subhajit to deep dive and give you more technical insights into those products. So discover is usually a layer which helps you discover your processes, as the name says. So when you have to understand whether there is an opportunity within your organization to automate a task, whether it's really beneficial, because as I said, cost is really important. So if you are investing on licenses and softwares, etc., you must have a good return on investment. So one of the product we have in the discover layers is process mining. So how process mining really helps is that when you have been working on a process, typically there are a lot of impressions that your data is leaving. It can be in the form of logs or different events. So process mining goes and looks at that data and tries to understand how much of volume you're catering to, what is the turnaround time of each transaction, whether there's a bottleneck. So those are the kind of opportunities that process mining tries to look for, and then suggest you whether you should actually go and deep dive and do a further opportunity assessment. The next one is task mining. So the difference between process mining and task mining, which is a question I have been asked multiple times, is process mining actually works on the data that has already been uh, saved with all the applications, whereas task mining works on real time. So if a user is doing some task, maybe some processing or anything that he's working on the system, task mining actually understands it real time. It understands how much time the user is taking, how much of the volume he or she is processing. So hence it can again give you some AI related insights to understand what is something which you can improve. Moving to the communications mining. So it's also a mining product, but the difference is that it more mines the communications. It can mine email conversations, it can mine chats. So it's more on a natural language processing. So it can understand or interpret the human conversations and try to mine the processes based on that. And finally, we have idea capture and management. So it's the product automation hub, which is like idea sharing and collating product. So when organizations are trying to understand what are the different opportunities they want to look at, usually employees come up with different ideas, but companies are not really understanding how to capture those ideas and look at certain KPIs that I can look at whether this is a feasible automation or really would give me an ROI. So automation hub is that place. So you need not rely on any Excels or any manual data. You can actually capture all those ideas in this particular application. It gives a very good insight into what is the cost benefit analysis, how much of resources that you are needing for UiPath or any other product, like if you want to involve some other products. So it gives you all that. You can also track your project plans. And in fact, we have planned our next session, which is next week, which talks much more about Automation Hub. So feel free to join. This is just a high level understanding. Moving to the next layer, which is automate. So this is typically the build layer where the developers can go and really create the bots. So this has a couple of products. So talking about UI and API automation, which is more of the studio product where the developers can go and create workflows based on the processes. And citizen developers, which is known as Studio X. So any user which is not really good in coding can actually utilize Studio X to create the bot on the go. So they understand their processes, they can find certain opportunities within their space, and they can start coding themselves. It's very interactive and easy. You just have to pick up some activities and you can start automating your own work. Moving to the next one, where UiPath has really transitioned towards the Gen AI space. So there are a lot of different products that have come up, which are more on the NLP and AI ML models. So we have got AI Center, and then there are a lot of products where also using some specific LLMs. So yeah, that's also UiPath is moving towards. The intelligent document processing is the product I was talking about, where it can read your documents and then also do an OCR of the products and extract the information, which is more meaningful and understandable for processing. And finally, process orchestration is the product which is known as Action Center, where what happens is not every time that bot is able to process everything. Maybe 80 or 90% it can process. Maybe 10% is the time where it needs some manual intervention. So Action Center comes handy, where the bot can park this information onto this platform, and then a manual user can go and intervene and provide some further information. So that's automate layer. And going to the operate layer, now we are talking about so many bots, so many different implementations. So we definitely need to manage and control all these bots. So these are some of the platforms that help us do that. So real-time trend analytics is basically insights. Like, when you're utilizing different robots, you have to understand what is the volume that my bot has processed, how much time it took, etc. So Insight comes with a lot of out of the box dashboards, which you can really integrate and get insights into with beautiful looking dashboards. Then we have continuous testing, which is the test manager, which can help you automate test scripts and run testing on the implementations you have done. Moving to the next one, which is unified management and governance, which is the orchestrator. So if you have to really manage all your bots, this is the place where it is. So of course, as I said, Subhajit would talk about this in detail. And finally, cloud first flexibility. So UiPath gives a lot of flexibility of how you can host your platform. It can be on-prem, or it can be cloud, or it can be hybrid. So there are different ways, and depending on your organization needs and your infrastructure, you can really tweak all those hostings, and really take help of different products that are available to further implement it for the organization. So I would like to pause here because I want to just give a high level understanding and then pass on to Subhajit, who would drill down further into each of them. Also, would like to just reiterate that this is just the first session, which is on overview, and we are planning multiple sessions, which would target all these products slowly, and would make you more comfortable on what they are. Subhajit, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Saloni, for the introduction of the UiPath capabilities and the different layers in UiPath platform. I'll touch upon each of these UiPath offerings, and in these layers, we'll explore their purposes and the real world problems they may solve. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So once we understand the problems the different offerings are trying to solve, that will help you to identify which tools are best suited for your organization needs and will enable you to take informed decisions and make the right choices. With that, I'll start with the process mining. Um, I'll start with a brief of what the process mining is, and then we'll try and understand it with some examples. So UiPath process mining analyzes the business processes by extracting data from enterprise systems and identify their inefficiencies. So it helps organizations to discover the opportunities for automations and process optimizations, etc. Um, for example, there is a large retail company which is dealing with order processing, and the company uses SAP for managing inventory and Salesforce for customer orders, Oracle for billing. So there are multiple systems that are there that are used for um, um, multiple stuffs. So the process mining connects to this system. So we're using the pre-built connectors, the APIs, data integration tools to feed on different types of logs. Let's say the event logs, the transaction logs, the audit logs, the application logs, etc. Um, Based on the integration of the log, it collates all the data and then it can map out the processes and with which we can see why the delays happen. For example, there is a slow inventory check, there's a slow order processing, and those things will come out of the processing of the data that the mapping does. And then there are pre-built AI, which does the data analysis and helps us understand how these impact the time and cost and the potential areas for the automation. So these identified automation opportunities can then be fed into the automation hub, which will be looking into the next slides. And once it is fed into the automation hub, it can be reviewed and prioritized. So that's pretty much around the process mining. So on a high level, it deals with the process, tries to understand where the bottlenecks in the processes are, and what are the scope of improvements. And with that, it feeds the data into the automation hub. We'll move to the task mining next. The UiPath task mining captures and analyzes user interactions on their computers and identify the repetitive task and the inefficiencies in the task itself. How we can do is we can deploy a UiPath task mining agent on user's computer and record their day-to-day task executions and interactions with applications over a certain period. We can collect all those data that are captured and in a centralized repository for a detailed analysis later. Now, with the help of the AI analytics, UiPath analyzes the collected data and visualize the different ways the tasks are performed. And then it measures the metrics, the time taken, and the steps involved in that. So if you can see, look at the flowchart. So it outlines those details, as and when it looks into the tasks. So it breaks the task into multiple workflows. So there is inbuilt AI, which helps us to identify the most efficient method and also highlight the bottlenecks in the process. So finally, again, like we did with process mining, we can export the findings into either a PDD or we can export it to Automation Hub. So Automation Hub again becomes the final repository where, based on the discovery, whether you do via process mining or task mining, the data is fed into the Automation Hub, which we can put into a pipeline management, which will export in a bit. So, as Saloni mentioned previously, so it's a very common question to be asked that what's the difference between this process and the task mining? I think the major difference is around the scope that we're looking at. The process mining analyzes the end-to-end business processes, wherein the task mining focuses on the individual user task within a specific application, and also how the data is sourced. The process mining source is more around the logs of the enterprise applications like SFE, Salesforce, Oracle logs, the application audit logs, whereas the task mining focuses on user interactions and actions through desktop recordings on the user machines. So that's pretty much is the difference. Again, irrespective of how we capture, it has to be fed into the automation hub, wherein we can prioritize and look into what is the best way to remediate the issue. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll move to the next slide, which is communications mining. Uh, to explain that, if we think of, as of today, there are a lot of companies that struggle with managing or responding to high volumes of customer inquiries like chat, emails, service tickets, which results in delays and inconsistent service. So UiPath Communications Mining is one of the recent offering from UiPath that can help us in analyzing and categorization of these communications. It can provide us real-time alerts. It can also provide AI-driven responses. So one of the USP of communication mining is that a non-technical person can also use UiPath no-code platform to connect with emails, chats, support tickets, and calls. The platform provides simple, drag and drop interfaces and some templates with which you can set up processes. It allows them to integrate with communication channels without having to have any programming skills as such. Say an example, it can be configured to monitor incoming mails. And if at all there is a level 3 escalation, it has to be alerted to an escalation manager. So you can automate this simple process without the need for any code as such. And this is not just limited to email, as I mentioned, it can be extended to chats, calls, service tickets, service portals, etc. So all communication channels. And also, in addition, the AI capabilities can be leveraged, like the categorization of emails, the draft responses. For example, we know that a specific type of uh, ticket requires a specific type of response. So those draft responses can be to the common queries can be created by AI, which will reduce a lot of manual overheads from the customer service team. Um, so these are the core capabilities of communications mining, which makes it a very powerful tool. We'll move to the next slide. Yep. So we have spoken about this automation hub before. Sorry. So in the previous slides, so you mentioned that whether it's task mining or process mining, the data is fed into the automation hub. The automation hub collects the data from various sources, so including it can be manual entry, or it can be fed from tools like process mining or task mining. And then it can help us creating a pipeline for the automation opportunities. And it also performs a high level assessment of of the pipeline and helps us prioritize based on the impact and the feasibilities. We can create or calculate the ROIs based on the automation opportunity. Again, that's all based on the data that is collected from different sources. Next, we can also use it as a document repository to store documents specific to processes. And finally, we can get interactive dashboards, which is which allows different cohorts. For example, we can have an executive view, where the executive can look at it and see what is the priority. Or we can have a product owner view. A product owner can look at what's important for at this point in time to be delivered. So they can look at the roadmaps, they can prioritize, and they can make decisions accordingly. Any questions till now? So that's more or less around the discovery layer for UiPath. If there are no questions around this, we'll move to the automate layer, which deals more around the build side of automation.
So I'd like to just pause, Subhajit, just giving some of the questions I can see on chat. So Fazli is asking, like, along with data management, can UiPath robot take care of data analysis as well? I think you've already answered. Sorry.
I respond to that question, yes.
Yep. So I have like another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as UiPath is dealing with a lot of data, it can be from third party or from the organization itself. But in case of the security, how UiPath automation or AI is helping to secure the data or to capture the data in a secure place?
Again, it depends on where the data is stored. If you're using AI models, we have to use the SaaS platform, and there will be constant data flow between the client systems and the SaaS platform. However, there are provisions where you can have on-prem setup if at all there is strict regulation around the data. The data cannot leave the on-premises, so that arrangement can be done as well. So there are features like automation suite, which can be set up within the premises. So the security depends on what are the governance, what are the regulations around the data is. And based on that, UiPath can offer the best product that's suitable for that requirement.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So we'll move to the build side of automation, which is also called the automate. So on a very high level, so there are three basic, or I wouldn't say the basic word, I would prefer the three means with which we can develop the automation, which are Studio Web, X, and UiPath Studio. I'll start with the Studio Web, which is ideal for a quick browser-based automation task and mostly for remote work environments. It is suitable for users and teams who need quick automation, for example, via API or web interface solutions. So they don't have to install any desktop software as such for this. And it enables users to design and run automations directly from a web browser. And that's why it ensures or gives them that flexibility and ease of access. So if we have to do a quick way automation without getting into the overhead of installing, that's what's one way of doing it. Next, we have the Studio X. This is more targeted towards the non-technical business users, who are also called the citizen developers who need to automate simple everyday tasks independently. I mean, it simplifies the automation with a user-friendly drag and drop interface, allowing them to automate workflows without much of a coding knowledge. So again, the target users, as I mentioned, it's non-technical business users. I mean, wherein you can use the drag and drop more efficiently. And finally, the UiPath Studio, where it's best suited for developing complex and advanced automation workflows, which requires detailed customization. So it provides a comprehensive set of tools and features for creating sophisticated automation, including scripting, debugging, etc. So yeah, I mean, if we are planning to create sophisticated automation, complex diagrams, complex flows, this is the way to go. Any questions around the options? If not, we can move to the next slide. Yep. So UiPath also provides these integration services, which has the built-in connectors and which allows you to integrate with systems like CRM, ERP, cloud services for seamless data flow. So there are pre-built connectors available, including connectors to AI and machine learning services. It also allows you to build your own custom connectors as per your specific needs. The integration services can also be configured to automatically start the robotic processes. For example, I mean, if there is a specific event that occurs within a business application, and this event can be used to action like receiving an email, updating a database. So those kind of events can be used to trigger automations. So integration services and the bots can work hand in hand to give you a seamless experience. Moving on to the next slide. The next offering is the UiPath apps. So UiPath apps allows the organizations to create custom user-friendly applications that integrate with automated processes, and it enhances the business workflows. So, and on a simple note, users can design visual drag and drop interfaces. So they can create forms and integrate them with the UiPath bots. So for example, for an IT support request, a user-friendly app can be created to submit request. And once after the request is created in that form, it will trigger a UiPath bot at the backend to log the ticket, notify the IT team, and provide the status updates. So this is a simple example to give you an idea how the apps work in real life. But again, it's not just limited to the simple ones. There can be complex stuff that can be done using the apps, the complex applications based on which we can have background robots working, multiple background robots working with the apps, and the apps trigger the bots to do the specific job. The apps templates are also, there are a lot of templates that are pre-built within for the UiPath apps. They help quickly create the functional applications with their ready-made designs and workflows. That will again save a lot of time for the users. when they are trying for a complicated one, they can use something which is ready-made and then they can customize on top of it. We'll move to the next slide. UiPath robots, I think perhaps one of the most important and the core component of the automation setup. So broadly speaking, there are three types of robots, the attended, unattended, and the automation cloud robots. So we'll start with the attended bots first, which the target users are like to help employees that require some human involvement or intervention. Like there is a customer service who are using some bots for data entry. So there has to be an user who will be sitting on the desk. However, the bot is helping them to fast track their actions or activities. And again, it is activated by the user actions. They work alongside people to boost their productivity. A simple example again would be a customer service agent using an unattended bot to find customer details during the call. So maybe it's just a click of a button and the bot does all the customer search during their call. It saves a lot of time navigating through multiple applications for them. The next is the unattended bot, where they can handle tasks without the need of any human intervention and pretty much like a background task for processing data. So they can run automatically based on schedules, triggers, and they can handle the repetitive tasks continuously based on that schedule. Um, an example would be an internet bot processing invoices, processing claims as a specific time, as scheduled from the orchestrator by the specific team. Finally, the cloud bots. The cloud bots, it leverages the cloud infrastructure to perform automated tasks from anywhere, offering scalability and flexibility without the need for the on-premises. So it uses the cloud resources to automate tasks from anywhere. So which, as I mentioned, offers the flexibility. And most importantly, as it runs in the cloud, it eliminates the need for any on-prem hardware, which makes it to scale easily, and it can be accessed globally. So those are some of the pros. However, there are certain cons for the cloud bots as well compared to the attended and the unattended. There can be, because it relies on the cloud, so there is a dependency on the internet. There are security concerns. I mean, so once we set up the cloud bots, you have to understand what are the security implications for their organization before you set that up. Also, there are limited control because the bot is not operating on a specific machine, so there'll be limited control on the applications, and there can be some latencies. I mean, if there are poor network conditions. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll move to the next topic. The Action Center. So this is a tool that allows the human to work hand in hand with the bots by managing tasks that requires human intervention. So users can review, approve, and provide input on automation workflows through a simple interface. Let's say an example that an invoice is being processed and there are certain discrepancies in extracting data from the invoices. That can be sent to the Action Center, where a user can manually look at it, correct the discrepancies, and the collected data can be feedback for retraining. So that allows the flexibility for the manual intervention, and the data can be used later for the retraining the bots. But yeah, it's not just limited to the example that I provided. There can be a lot of features like approval workflows and others. And there are other templates available as well with which we can create those. Next topic. The next one is the next two slides are more around the AI capabilities that UiPath has. The first one being the document understanding. So this is a feature that has been there in UiPath for quite some time. The primary feature is to extract and process data from various documents like invoice, receipts, forms, using AI and machine learning. So it's not just the OCR, but it's a AI combined with OCR, which allows you to the extraction at a more intelligent level. We can map data in a way that we know that for a specific type of invoices, a specific type of documents, the data is supposed to be extracted in a specific manner. And this tool reduces manual effort, improve accuracy. Then it has integration with multiple other systems, with which we can pass on the data to the other systems for processing. And this has been one of the core feature for UiPath AI, which is again made to work hand in hand with AI models, which we'll explore in the next slide as per the AI Center. AI Center is you can say the heart of the UiPath AI, but it enables deployment, management, and monitoring of all the AI models to enhance the automation capabilities. It works hand in hand with document understanding by providing the AI models that power the data extraction and ensure that the accurate and the efficient processing of the documents is happening. Again, I mean, it facilitates features like retraining of the data, retraining of the models, and we can create workflows on how to handle the exceptions. So these integration provide seamless features and optimized workflows for complex document-related tasks. Move to the next one. Yep. So that was more around the build part of the automation or the automate part of the UiPath. Now we'll move to the operate section or the tier. The first one it would be the insights. So to summarize about insights, it provides some advanced analytics and real-time dashboards to measure the performance and the impacts of your automation and the workflows. And this is not just limited to the automation bots. It can be any of the tools that we discussed before, that if we are running those tools on a daily basis and we want to measure how they are performing on a daily basis, this is the tool to go ahead. And it has got a seamless integration with all the tools that we have discussed before. And it helps you track the key metrics, identify the areas of improvement, and also we can make data-driven decisions to optimize our automation strategy. We'll move to the next. UiPath Orchestrator, perhaps one of the most important component of UiPath. This is a centralized platform that manages, monitors, and optimizes the automation workflows and bots. It schedules and deploys robots, and it also provides a real-time insights, like for example, how a specific job is performing, the logs around the jobs, the schedules. So everything that we can think about of an orchestration, whether it's a AI-driven bot, whether it's a cloud bot, whether it's attended or unattended, it can be done by the orchestrator. So we'll have a separate session specifically on the infrastructure, where you can discuss more on the orchestrator. But on a high level, that's the idea, that irrespective of the product we go ahead, with, it has to have an integration with the orchestrator with which we can control, govern, monitor, and orchestrate those offerings. And also it has got the role-based access, means that we can have different views for different users. Like we can have some for the administrators, we can have for the product owners, we can have for the developers, we can have for the operation teams, and even the licenses, which I missed out initially. The licenses that we get from UiPath can be managed in Orchestrator. That's a very high level summary of the Orchestrator. You can move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So the next is the automation cloud. So as we discussed, I think initially that we can have the SaaS offering from UiPath, which resides in the automation cloud. So that is a very easy to set up structure, wherein we set up the orchestrator in the cloud. We set up our bots, we make the connection, and we are good to go. And then we also have the governance features from the enterprise scale development and operations. And most importantly, there are multi-region support. I mean, we have the SaaS offering within Australia as well. If you can move to the next one. And finally, if there are regulations around data security, if we want to set up an offering within the customer premises or within the cloud that customer has, we can very well go with the automation suite. So again, it provides access to all the service and integrations. It may not be a plug and play as the UiPath SaaS offering, which we explored before. However, it provides all the features. I mean, whether it's the AI, whether it's insights, whether it's the orchestration, the bot. So all the features are readily available within automation suite. It depends on what we are looking for to configure. So once when you are setting it up, there are different configurations available. And based on the configurations we select and the type of licenses we are going for, we can activate that offering. That's pretty much around the operate layer of UiPath. Any questions, or if there are any questions in the chat which I may have missed?
So I can see a question from Noreen regarding UiPath apps. So I'll just read for you. So the question is, I have questions about UiPath apps. Just now in the slide, there is a mobility view. Is it a mobile app or a web browser view in mobile?
That is a bit. Can I get back to you later on this? Because I haven't explored the mobile apps bit in UiPath app. So I may not be able to address this question right now. Sorry for that.
Is Naren on the call? Naren, can we come back? Not too sure, Subhajit, if she's there. Yeah, that was just the question.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? I'm looking into the chat as well. I do not see any other questions. Saloni, over to you. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I'm good, Subhajit. So as Subhajit mentioned, if you have further questions, please feel free to ask, or otherwise feel free to get back to Rohit and share your questions with us. But I hope this was a useful session. Just wanted to set a context of what UiPath is capable of, and then over a period of couple of different sessions, we'll talk about some of these in detail. So yeah, we'll be happy to help you with any automation journey. Once again, thank you all for joining, and see you in our next sessions. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.